All right, so we are getting really close to the end. We've talked about nearly everything, right? So we talked about conversion measurement. We talked about knowing your goals. We talked about structure, campaign structure. We talked about keywords, how to do proper keyword research. We talked about these different formulas. Actually, I want to go back to the quality score formula because it definitely ties into this next topic, which is all about ad copy. So keyword development is probably the most time consuming when you're creating your account, but ad copy is really, really important. And again, let's look at quality score. First of all, it's important because you got to resonate, right? So if somebody searches for chiropractic care near me or chiropractor near me or back pain help or whatever it is, your ads are going to show next to competitors, right? So Google Ads is a big auction. You need to be able to differentiate yourself. So especially if you're like a local independent chiropractor and you're up against the big guys like Chiro One or The Joint, these quick fix type chiropractors, in and out for $29. You probably don't want to play in that playground unless you're one of them as well, right? So, but they've got gigantic budgets, and you have to take a guerrilla marketing approach to being able to dominate your local marketplace, making sure that you focus on things that are very different than those chiropractors. So, focusing on care, quality care, focusing on local involvement, focusing on being part of the local community, things like that make you very special in your unique market. So think about that. Ad copy is really, really important. What I want to say about it before we get into this formula again is that if you've taken the time to create your website, and again, I'm going to show you an example of a great website after we talk about this formula, but this is really the stuff that should be part of your website. So all of the marketing forethought, how to differentiate yourself versus the competition. Again, if you don't know your competition, go out there and start Googling and look at all of the competitors that serve your same market. Take a very, very close look at their offers. Take a close look at their website, their positioning. How are they expressing themselves? What is the brand voice? And find your unique brand voice. Okay, it's not about sameness only goes so far, right? So you got to be unique. You got to stand out. There's got to be something different about you. So really work on that if you don't have that already. If you have it, terrific. This is going to be even easier, right? So I'll show you an example of that as we move forward. But so this is, the website is really where it starts. This is the kernel of the marketing because this is where we're sending our traffic, right? So if you figure this out and your website is speaking in your voice in an effective manner and you've got the proper offers in place, then the ad copy is actually pretty darn easy. So with the ads, we've got 15 different headlines. Okay, so it's not like the old days where we just had different headlines. It's a very dynamic placement. So we have 15 different headlines, right? So 15 headlines, 4 different descriptions. You don't have to do all of them. I do recommend that you do all of them. But you have up to 15 different headlines, 4 descriptions. The headlines are 30 characters max. The descriptions are 90. So you want to really, really optimize your ad space. Okay. So we start again by, if we're living in an ideal world, then your website is already like cooking, right? It's already doing its job and you can just take the content right from your website and reformat it for those character restrictions that we have in Google. Now, a lot of times I lean heavily, if that's the case, I lean heavily on AI to simplify that. So I might use ChatGPT to feed in some content from the website and give me 30 character versions, or I'll say, hey, give me 50 different ideas for this particular phrase that fits in 30 characters or less. And I might use ChatGPT, or I might use Grok, or I might use, Anthropic's Claude, or there's a whole bunch of them, right? Gemini is part of Google. So whatever you're using, make sure you run those ideas through the AI tools, just so you have a full, all-encompassing view of all the opportunities that you might pursue. You might be surprised and find something that's actually spot on, or maybe close, that you can tweak a little bit. So make sure you do that. Okay. So getting back to the basics, I want to talk about quality score really quick because I always want to level set and explain like why we're doing things, right? So we've created our keywords. So hopefully you've created your keyword structure. The keywords are in thematic ad groups. So we've built out our ad groups in the keywords. We have that hierarchy of Google Ads, which is campaign, ad group, keywords, and then you should have like these thematic groups of ad groups that have like a handful of keywords, right? And we do that to be able to right out of the gate control ad relevancy, which you can see here is a big portion of quality score, right? And we also do that to be able to control our bidding. So we want to be able to control our bidding for the keywords that matter so that we can dominate page position again for those very select keywords that represent high commercial intent. So if that's done, now we move into actual ad copy. So in that Google Sheets document that I introduced in the keyword video, there's another tab that's right next to it, and it's all about ad copy, and I'll show you that in a second here. But we're basically taking that same hierarchy of campaign and ad group and then building out ads. Now, what we do here at Brand Rocket is we will create 2 different ads per ad group. So one of them is unpinned, because Google does not like when you start pinning and controlling headline positions. And then one of them is pinned. So we always like to do A/B testing. So we do run that so we can say, okay, which one is performing better? And that's what I recommend as well. Okay. So again, quality score, a good, we'll just say 25% of it, is ad relevance. Nobody really knows these percentages, by the way. It's like a Coca-Cola formula tucked away, protected by Google. So nobody really knows, but these are really, probably semi-accurate. But know that ad relevance is important for sure. And this is why we have to spend, good quality time understanding how the ads are going to work as they relate to the user queries. So when somebody searches for something, your ad should be very relevant to what they're searching. And then they click the ad, they go to the landing page. That should also be relevant. Now, that's hard to do because there's so many different searches, and you'd have to have a really large website. There's landing page software. So we do landing pages as well, where we could dynamically create content based off of what somebody's searching. So if you need help with landing pages, we're certainly here to help with that as well. But I would just pick, your top searches and structure pages around those top searches so that you can nail this one. So landing page experience, right? So that you have continuity from the time somebody does a search, continuity and consistency, all the way from the search to your landing page, and you're fulfilling that person's need and adding value to their search, and hopefully they're booking as a result, right? So all the way through to the landing page. Your page should not be spammy. It should be professional. It should work on mobile devices. It should work on desktop and anything in between, like, iPads or whatever, right? So it's got to be ready to serve, especially when you're spending the money on Google. That landing page has got to be, completely optimized and ready to do the heavy lifting of those quality clicks. Because think about it, like you've done all this work in identifying the top high intent keywords that have high commercial intent keywords. Now you're investing on those clicks. When that click comes over to your website is really, you're passing the baton to the website and saying, okay, do your job, right? So do your job. Make sure you convert this traffic at the highest percentage possible. And again, we do landing pages. So if you need help, just reach out. So that would be landing page experience. The expected click-through rate, again, is the CTR of your ad in comparison to the other advertisers on the page. Okay, so the higher up you are in the page, the higher your CTR typically. Okay, so let's take a look at a website. Again, it goes back to the website a lot of times because this is such a big chunk. And let's talk about that, and then we will talk about ad copy as well. Okay, so this is LifeSpring out in Austin, and I bring them up a lot because I just feel like they've done a really, really good job. I mean, they have personality, right? So it's not just this templated cookie cutter website. You can tell that they've got a brand voice. The way they express themselves, the way they talk about chiropractic care is different. Very different than these chain, like the Joint type chiropractic care practices, right? Very, very different in that they're all about Austin. Voice voted best of Austin, so front and center, these trust signals, right? So everything's right here, like schedule an appointment, the stars, the reviews, the way that they think about chiropractic, the LifeSpring difference, right? Again, making yourself different than the competitors out there. That's why I really recommend doing a complete analysis on your competitive landscape, and just constantly improving. Like, you don't have to get it completely right in the beginning, but start to think this way. Like, how can I make myself different, especially if you don't want to compete with the $29 in and out quick fix chiropractors, right? And you want somebody who's going to be there, that stays with your practice over many, many years, that represents high lifetime patient value versus something that's transactional and you never see that person again. So really think about that. You can see they have all these different sections here, like back pain, TMJ, knee pain, neck pain. These are all landing pages, quite frankly. I mean, this was built out for SEO, so you have to think about that. SEO and PPC, pay-per-click, is what we do. We don't do SEO, but we certainly appreciate it because if a website is structured properly from an SEO perspective, then we can start sending traffic to those very distinct pages that have been created for these searches that we're capturing. And again, going back to quality score, you can see how that's a huge advantage, right? You get high marks by Google for sending somebody to a page that's relevant to the search. So this is where you start to get into higher quality scores. You get into quality scores that are 7s, 8s, 9s, and even 10s, and you can be spending less per click than somebody who's ranked below you. Okay, we talked about that in a separate video. So that's the magic of quality score. But you can see, like, meet the band, right? It's just making themselves very, very different, setting themselves apart from the competition. They just do a fantastic job, for sure. A little, frequently asked questions down here. Up here at the top, there's different services. Again, these are the different pages that they've created, and they're all very detailed. So a lot of information, more pictures, actual pictures of the practice, right? We're not talking about images that are reused all over the internet, so real photos of the practice. So somebody gets a glimpse of what it would be like to go into their chiropractor or into their practice, rather. There's probably some people that are a little scared, right? So they don't know what they're getting into, especially if they've never done chiropractic or had an adjustment or anything like that. If they've never been to a chiropractor, they might be a little hesitant. So this takes them behind the scenes, explains everything, gives a lot of education. Here's a story, here's a video, right? So it's just they've just done a really, really great job here. So I would use this as a template or maybe even a goal of like how you want to structure your own website. And of course, your brand voice is going to be unique to you. So it's not going to be just copying what they're doing, certainly, right? So you got to find your brand voice and what makes you different and special and position yourself against the competition that way. Okay, so this is a perfect example, again, of what I said prior. Like when we're building our ad copy, a lot of times if a website is structured properly, we can just pull ad copy directly from the website and then reformat it for those character restrictions that are in Google Ads, okay? All right, so some other ideas for coming up with ad copy. What you can actually do is just go to Google and type in any of chiropractic search. So chiropractor near me is a popular one. So, chiropractor near me, you'll see the sponsored results. So you can see all these sponsored results. Now, this used to work better, quite frankly. I don't always see ads, but I'm going to show you a little trick here that works, I would say 50% of the time. I'm not sure what's going on with Google. They're holding back information these days, but let's say we could find something here. I'm gonna click on the 3 dots for AFC Chiropractic, and you'll see here it says see more ads that this advertiser has shown. Okay, so let's see what we have here. And we're able to see the ads. So if you ever want to get some ad ideas or inspiration, by all means, we are not copying ad copy, right? So we're seeing what's out there and making it better. So we're getting some ideas, and incorporating them into that Google Sheets document where we build the ad copy, which I'll touch on here shortly. But we're just getting a sense for what's going on. What are my competitors doing? Do they have any offers that are better than mine? Can I make my offer better than theirs? How are they positioning themselves in this crowded market if your market is crowded? So really important to go through there. By the way, if this doesn't show you anything, you'll get a message up here that says something about age restriction. I noticed I was getting blanks. Fill in your age for Google, and then that restriction will be removed, and you'll be able to see more ads. It doesn't happen all the time. Okay, a lot of times you're going to click on if there. So another thing I noticed is that if the account is created by an agency and the agency is holding this within their own agency account, which by the way I would never recommend. You should have your own ad account. This is something that you should own because you don't want to be beholden to any agency or consultant where if you're not happy with the services, they've got everything that they've created and then you're kind of stuck with nothing, right? So make sure you create your own Google Ads account, by the way. So but a lot of times if I do a search for an agency, I'll see all of the agency ads and not the chiropractic ads. So just keep that in mind as well. You can do very distinct searches. So you can search like this one. I just did, the joint to see what came up. And then I did the same thing. I clicked on the 3 dots and I was able to see the joint, like the ads that the joint is running as well. Not again, in this particular example, for sure, you don't want to copy it, right? So $29 first visit. It's not, you don't want parity. You don't want to be the same as the joint because they're going after the quick fix audience. Most likely, if you're an independent chiropractor serving a market, most likely you want to be different and stand out from, chiropractors like the joint, right? So that's another tool. There's a tool called SpyFu that it's not tied in directly into Google Ads at all. There's no API connection, but I believe that they analyze this data from ISPs across the internet, and they're able to kind of scoop up all these different ads that are shown across the internet for chiropractors. So you can sign up there and do some research and see, what ads have been running across an incredible, like a long length of time, actually. And you might find the competitors and be able to see the different ads that they run. And I would say the same is true for another tool called SEMrush. Okay, so, all right. So now that we've covered all that, let's get into the actual Google Ads campaign. And I'll give you a little preview about the way that this is structured. We talked about we talked about campaign structure in previous videos. We talked about isolation campaigns. We talked about exploration campaigns. And now I'm going to show you exactly what they look like. And again, I'm not going to go through and build one because this stuff changes all the time, right? So if I went through that, I'd get a bunch of comments probably saying, hey, this doesn't match up with what I'm seeing, right? And neither of us want that. So there's going to be changes in the interface constantly with Google. So we're just going to kind of keep this mid-level, not too high level, but more mid-level, and then go through, how it looks once it's actually loaded in your account. So I'm going to take you into the Google Sheets document first. And then I'll talk about, how we build the ad copy in the Google Sheets document. And then we're going to go into the actual Google Ads account. And then we're going to look at a live account. Okay. So give me 1 second here. Okay. So here we go. This is the build that we did for LifeSpring quite some time ago. And you can see the structure. We have campaign, we have ad group, and then look at all these different headlines. We have headline 1. Headline 2. These character fields are something that we added to this so that as we're building this out, we know that we're not exceeding the character limitations. So the headlines is 30 and then the descriptions is 90, right? It just helps us keep on track so we don't go haywire with, building out ad copy that doesn't even fit in the Google Ads restriction. So, free 15-minute consultation. This is right from the website. We just looked at that, right? So Austin's #1 rated chiropractor, finding lasting relief every time. You can see some of these are different. We test a lot for sure. Restore proper alignment. We care about overall health, personalized to suit your needs, adjustments that relieve pain, improve your body's movement, chiropractic care professional, great location and a cool space, get back to your old self. And then quite frankly, a lot of these have probably changed. So as we move forward in time, we're looking at the ratings that Google gives for ad copy. So if ad copy is not performing, we're going to get some markers in the account that it's not performing. And then what we do is we move in different ad copy. So we're always A/B testing ad copy, and I'd highly recommend that you do that as well. So you can see here a lot of different headlines for sure. Then the descriptions, right? So the 4 descriptions. So 90 character descriptions, and they're all created to serve that particular ad group. So when we did our keyword build, we built out those thematic ad groups as part of our keyword build. Now we take ad copy and we apply that to those ad groups. Okay, so this one, I can tell this one was not quite the spreadsheet that we used when we built it. Typically, you'll see 2 different ads per ad group as we build these out, especially when it's brand new. What we're looking at here is probably something we brought in much later after we launched, and we're making adjustments to existing copy. But when we build these out, we have 2 per ad group. And again, the reason that we do that is we pin one of the headlines, or we pin 1 to 3 headlines in one version, and then the other version, we do no pinning of the headlines at all. We actually let Google have free reign of how they want to distribute those headlines, which is what Google likes, right? And we don't get penalized for it. So little insurance policy there. So doing pinned and then unpinned, 2 ads per ad group. All right, so this is what it looks like in the Google Sheets document. Once we have built out our ad copy, once we've got it, our keywords and our ad copy in this Google Sheets document, and as a reminder, you can get this document by looking in the description. There's going to be a link below on how to get this document. But once we've built out the keywords and the ad copy, what we do internally is we actually move it into the Google Ads Editor. Google Ads Editor is an app that can run on a Mac or a Windows machine, and then we flush out the build by creating all of those ad assets like the snippets and the extensions and the images. There's a whole bunch of assets that go into building out these particular campaigns. You can do it directly in Google Ads, by the way. I just find it to be a lot easier to use the Google Ads Editor. All right. So now let's switch over into the actual Google Ads account to take a look. We're going to actually see a live account to see how this looks. All right, see you over there in a second. Okay, and here's the live account. So you can see here on this particular graph where we started introducing the campaigns, right? So we started, and this just shows conversions and then cost per conversion. And so the blue line is conversions. And you can see, our goal internally is always 30. It depends on the budget, what a chiropractor can spend. I recommend starting at $1,500 to $2,000 per month, by the way. So, and then scaling that accordingly. So you can see here, conversions just continue to go up over time. So you can see it going from like 23 to 25 to 31 to 45 to 58. Dipped a little to 53, and then back up to almost 60, right? So, and then cost per conversion at 113. So doing exactly what we would expect it to do in the beginning. This is where we're starting with that isolation campaign, and then we start adding exploration. And this is the scaling that I talked about in the previous video. So it allows you to scale and grow. Now, this isolation campaign, here it is here. At some point, we might actually turn it off. And that's what we did here. So we lean on it heavily in the beginning for the learning and the signals, the algorithmic training to be able to dominate the page position. And then once that training is complete, we then start to shift over into what we call an exploration or exploratory campaign that is max conversions, using max conversions coupled with broad match keywords and a target CPA. Okay. So we're always balancing. We're going, okay, what is the proper balance in the account? And it really depends on the chiropractor and the market that they serve as to what that looks like. There are times where the exploratory campaign, maybe the performance is a little bit down, and we'll shift over into isolation to reclaim that page position for specific keywords. So it's always like this delicate balancing act and trying to figure out, what is the sweet spot to constantly generate and scale these conversions. Like right now, we are doing mostly exploratory, which is, again, exploration, exploratory. These are our own internal terms. But if you remember from prior videos, this is, again, is like max conversions, broad match, target CPA, right? And we don't launch with this. We always launch with isolation first. So in fact, let's take a look at the isolation campaign, and you'll be able to see these thematic ad groups that were created. Okay, so let's take a look here. Looking at the different performance. So this is Chiropractor Geo Austin. I'm just going to click on it. You can see the different keywords that get loaded. Let me take the segmentation off. So in this particular example, we had Chiropractor Austin that generated 20 phone calls, right? And a bunch of conversions as well. Conversion rate of almost 10%, which is pretty darn good. We launch, again, the isolation campaign is exact match and manual CPC bidding. So that's what we launch with. And then we expand it out as we move backward in the funnel. Now, what we do is when we launch this isolation campaign, we do launch with all of the match types that are already preloaded, but we don't go live with phrase match and we don't go live with broad match. We preload them because what we do at some point is we take that particular campaign. Once we feel comfortable that we are in the process of successfully training the algorithm, we take that isolation campaign and actually copy it into a new campaign that gets renamed into an exploration, okay? And then we turn all of those broad match keywords on. We turn off the exact match keywords and the phrase match. So it's purely broad match. We switch it to max conversions. We set up target CPA based off the data that we're seeing in the account. And then we start launching the campaign side by side. And again, that's usually in month 2 or 3, and we start scaling that campaign accordingly, right? So with the different campaign tips. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this was covered in a previous video in detail. So make sure you go back and take a look at that. Okay, so you can see this has been running for a while. So we started with isolation. At some point, we decided to pause it. We went forward with full exploration or exploratory, as it's called here. We have a brand campaign, which we didn't talk about, but every Google Ads account should probably have a brand campaign. These the cost per click on it is like so low, and it allows you to dominate and maintain your position so competitors can't knock you out of there, right? So make sure, it's a defensive posture as well. And in the beginning with the brand campaigns, by the way, it allows you to be able to start sending those high intent commercial signals over into the Google Ads algorithm and really helps with the training. All right. So let's just take a look at one of these exploratory campaigns or exploration campaigns. So here you can see there's only 4 ad groups. Why are there only 4 ad groups? Because we've actually identified the ad groups that perform best. Okay. And this is where we are going to start really honing in on how to get these things to perform at top notch. Okay. So we go into these ad groups, we set our target CPA appropriately. We watch all kinds of metrics. We look at search impression share top. We look at the auction insights reports to see, who's in the auction, who are we up against? What do we need to do to outbid them, outrank them in the page position? If the bids start getting too expensive, sometimes we might actually exit that auction or turn the ad groups off. So that's another reason that we have these ad groups set, on a thematic basis like that, because it allows us to have that granular control of turning things on and off as needed, depending on what's going on in the market. Okay. So currently, and this changes all the time, currently we're just doing 3 or 4 different ad groups. And if I were to go into this particular ad group, you can see here, broad match. Whoa, broad match. Are you out of your mind? Well, it's held in check by target CPA, and it's set to max conversions, right? It's not just broad match allowed to go haywire. We actually have these guardrails in place to make sure that it's behaving properly, right? So, all right. So that's all the way to the keyword level. Let's just take a close look at some ads here as well. So again, remember what I said, 2 different ads. See how it says poor here for ad strength? Google doesn't like pinned headlines, just does not like it. Does not affect performance, but Google just does not like pinned headlines. Okay, so we just go with this one. That we have one that's completely unpinned, allows it to get, Google can do whatever they want in terms of like moving headlines in and out, gives it excellent ad strength. And if I were to open this up, you would see that it has a lot of different ad copy in it, like 15 different headlines, all the way down. Everything's filled out. And again, we're testing headlines all the time. We're testing descriptions all the time. So nothing ever stays the same. There's a lot of ad assets, images. Make sure your images match up with your website for sure. Business logos, site links, ad snippets. In this case, we have that stuff added to the account level, so we're not seeing it here. But yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. So that's how it looks once it gets loaded into Google Ads. Okay, so I hope you really enjoyed this series. I'm probably going to add another video to this series here real soon that's all about Performance Max. So thinking about earlier in a previous video, we talked about working backward through the funnel. We start, again, isolation campaign, manual CPC, so manual bidding for sure, just CPC, right? Exact match targeting. We're training the algorithm. Then we go to the next stage, which is just like we looked at, max conversions, right? So we're doing smart bidding, max conversions coupled with broad match with the target CPA. And then we can move into like performance max campaigns. In fact, we're building one out for this particular client right now. So that's what I probably will cover in the next video, because you never want to launch with Performance Max. It'll just gobble up your budget in a second. And there's a lot of safeguards that you have to think about for Performance Max in relation to lead gen, because it can be quite wasteful. Okay, so that's next in this video series. But this wraps up the search side, which is really, really important. This will take you a long way. If you can nail this, you're going to be in an excellent spot for sure. Okay, so one more time, if you need help with any of this stuff, because it is very time consuming, right? If you'd rather spend time working on your practice, bringing in patients, working on providing quality chiropractic care, and letting us do what we do, which is chiropractic marketing, especially in Google ads and Facebook, mostly Google ads, which is the important stuff, bottom of the funnel, high intent searches. Let us know, because we are here to help. Okay, brandrocket.net/schedule. We do have a discount for chiropractors because we know how to do this. We know the keywords that convert on a regular basis. So we save a lot of time, a lot of headache, and we get you up and running as quickly as possible. All right. I need to catch a breath. This is a 32-minute video. All right. Thanks again for hanging in. And if you like the series, please subscribe to the channel. This is the first time I've actually asked that, after hours and hours of educational materials here. So if you found value, please subscribe, please like, and we'll see you soon. All right. Thank you.